you might want to not tell anybody about it. O.H. Skinner from Alliance for Consumers. He's the executive director, here to tell us about Kamala's gas stove ban. O.H., how are you, sir?
I'm good. It's always sad when I'm on talking about a topic that's just going to make a lot of people's lives worse, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Look, before we get into gas stoves and this particular thing and the dark money connection, I have had a refrigerator since 1996. And it doesn't make ice. The ice maker doesn't work anymore. It's really outdated. But every time we go to look at a refrigerator, I convince my wife, no, let's not, because we're going to end up getting a product that's only going to last us about 5 years, and it's way too much. Let's keep this one that's been around since the Clinton era and is still working, because they don't make appliances like they used to, OH.
No, and I mean, look, everyone's seen this. I mean, everyone's got a story, right? It's your dishwasher, it's your refrigerator, it's the freezer, it's your clothes wash. What they are doing is consistently making it harder and harder for the products in your home to do their job, right? Every couple of years, they make it, they impose new efficiency requirements, to the point where they're cutting so close to the bone that you now have to pay more and more money for things that work less and less well. I mean, under the Biden-Harris administration, they've come out with rules to wipe away. I'm talking like 80% of the refrigerators, 80% of the freezers are not going to be sold anymore that are currently on the market because they don't meet the newest rules, the newest next rules. And you're nailing it right on the head. It costs more and it doesn't do as good a job and it doesn't last as long, right? And it comes in every aspect of your home. I mean, if you had to repair an air conditioner recently, you would have experienced this where people won't refill the machines anymore, and they're going to have you buy a $30,000 system because people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have banned the product that goes into it to make it work. And so to serve Mother Gaia and increase efficiency, you're not allowed to spend $1,500 to put some juice back into your air conditioner. You have to buy a whole $30,000 air conditioner, assuming that you're like Nancy Pelosi and you can just float 30,000 here, 30,000 there for everything in your house, right? It is a consistent campaign that feels like, if you were a person who didn't always see the best in people, you would think that it was intentional, that the pain was intentional and they're just trying to make your life worse.
It does seem that way. And what is the logic behind it? I mean, we're saving the planet.
The logic is, so here's where it really boils down to, Tom. They are not solving for the same thing you and I are solving for. You're thinking about how does a family with 3 kids, I've got 5-year-old and younger. How does a family with 3 kids live life well, right? They're not solving for that. They're solving for getting to net zero carbon emissions by a date that they're setting in the future, right? They're only arguing about when they get there. They're arguing about whether it's going to be 2030, 2035. Net zero means no new emissions. No new emissions. That's no more gas stations. That's all of these things that you're seeing. They're solving for that. They're not solving for your life or my life or our kids' lives getting better. And, the story that you're talking about is there's new information that Kamala has brought on, a person named Camilla Thorndike from a dark money group called Rewiring America. This is the kind of person who says, I'm not sure, it's an tough ethical call about whether you should have kids, right? Same woman who's saying we're going to ban gas stoves. You and I are sitting here thinking, why are they making our lives worse? Life is hard enough. We need to have things get easier. And they're thinking, no, our religion is getting to net zero carbon emissions. And how are we going to do that? Well, it's going to require a lot of changes and a lot of tough ethical choices. And so when you're solving for something, they're not solving for the same thing. So surprise, surprise, they don't think you need that dishwasher.
Well, ironically, our dishwasher is not working. And so we're looking for one now. And since the last time we bought one, the price has pretty much tripled. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So, look, and I think
it's not going to do a better job. I hate to break it to you, Tom. It is not going to do the same or better job for triple the money, friend.
Yeah. And I think that this actually started under Obama, was when the crappy products started coming out.
Yeah. I mean, so this has been an ongoing thing, right? Like, in some ways, them hiring somebody from a left-wing dark money group is par for the course because Their positions are clear. At some point, we just need to listen, right? They're not trying to hide it. Have you noticed all the articles about how maybe you don't need a dishwasher? Maybe life without air conditioning is actually great. You know, they're lionizing these things that match a net zero life. They're lionizing these things that match their overall position. And we all need to just, as an average consumer, wake up to the reality that their positions are clear. Their track record is clear, whether it's under Obama, whether it's under Biden, surely whether if Harris wins the presidency, it's a consistent march, right? It's not an accident. I think the number one thing I try to tell everyone I talk to is this is not an accident. They are not, they're not sitting here saying, I can't believe we accidentally made all the dishwashers terrible, because they're in the process of pushing you to where nobody can afford a dishwasher. And that's okay, because it's hard to reach net zero if everyone's washing their dishes in a dishwasher. It's hard to reach net zero if everybody has an air conditioner. So if the air conditioners are too expensive, if the dishwashers are unavailable, oh, happy accident, friend. Now we can get to net zero. And, you just got to step up. You just got to step up. And that's really what they're solving for. So you're right. It's a long march with a clear track record.
Yeah. Well, they're in Britain, they're urging people to eat less meat to hit zero carbon emissions. That's
next. I mean, why? Why are they urging people to do this? It's all because of reaching that net zero. Yeah, I get you completely on that, because they're going after every single thing to get to their imaginary targets, right? They're not trying to tell you that eating less meat is healthy. They're not trying to tell you that eating less meat is going to make your life better. They're just saying, we got to get to the targets, friends. And, it's an ethical choice. It's the same people who think you shouldn't have kids. It's the same people who think that not having air conditioning is something that is virtuous. These are the people who are pushing these policies. Who wants to ban the gas stove? The person who, is busy ordering in the Uber Eats in San Francisco every day, right? I mean, I'm just, these are not people who are used to living the ordinary life that you do. They are not solving for the same reality. I tell people all the time that when you complain to them that it's impossible to afford a 3-row SUV or minivan that's all electric that can hold your family with 4 kids, they're blinking at you. They're not trying to explain why it's okay, because their first thought is, oh, great, so maybe just don't have those kids. Right? It is all built into, like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, they're not even approaching the problems of life the way you are.
Well, they don't even want us to have homes, right? They don't want us to have a house. Do they want to just herd us all into apartment complexes that they control?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. You'll notice that they always emphasize that there's a choice involved. They'll always say there's still choice. We're wiping 85% of cars off the road. That's their newest rule. Their pathway to reach their emission standards for cars is to 85% of the cars are no longer gas cars, right? Now, they'll always say there's still consumer choice, but when they wipe away your average refrigerator and then they say, well, Nancy Pelosi can still buy a $30,000 refrigerator or 2 $30,000 refrigerators. You and I both know that's not choice. The person from San Francisco thinks that's choice, right? And then you go back to houses, cars, things that go in your houses. All of it comes down to the same thing, which is they're just solving for the brutal math of net zero and for the lifestyle choices that they like, right? The other thing that I think is hard is even when it's not just purely about net zero, they're just promoting the products they like. If they would go into the store and not buy a gas stove, you're not allowed to have a gas stove. If they go into the store and they would only buy the highest efficiency product available, no matter the cost, well, we're sick of trying to convince people to do that. We'll just ban everything else, right? That's the thing. I think the easiest way, we call it mandated progressive lifestyle choices. And that's what it is just think about what a person from one of these rich coastal enclaves would live like. They're busy trying to ban products to get you to live the same way. Now, to your point, is it inconvenient if suddenly that means you're not allowed to have the size house you want, or a house, or the car you want? Yeah, that's damn inconvenient. But for them, they just think, well, why are you making those bad choices to begin with?
Yeah. We're talking with O.H. Skinner. He's the executive director of Alliance for Consumers. We don't want Kamala's gas stove ban or any of these other ridiculous things that affect us as consumers going forward. The Tom Broughton Show is driven by Martin Transport, now hiring Class A CDL truck drivers for their Canova, West Virginia terminal. Apply online at martintransport.com. That's martintransport.com. Speaking of truckers,
I was about to say, I'd love to talk to you about truckers.
Well, truckers and farmers are some of the ones that are actually fighting back against this Biden-Harris unworkable EPA green mandate. And really, I think maybe some industry leaders are starting to wake up to this and realizing it's not feasible or sustainable.
Yeah, I think what's important, yes, that's starting to happen in the trucking industry. I mean, in case I'm sure your listeners know this, but they're busy trying to say that anybody who's driving a truck, especially from a port, has to use an electric truck, right? As if you're going to haul the goods across America that people need at the stores around them, on electric trucks, right? Now, step one is they probably don't think we should be living in the middle of America because they wouldn't want to live there. So, that's gross to begin with in their mind. But this is that same commitment, as if somehow everything in the store is not going to get crazy expensive. As if now, because again, they're not solving for making life workable. They're solving for their ideology. And I think it's important to understand that this is being pushed by dark money groups like Arabella Advisors and Soros money, and people who are, these are people with lots and lots of money who are pretty content that at the end of the day, they'll still be able to get what they want, right? But gas-powered semi-trucks, gone. They don't want you to have a gas-powered car at your own house. All these things, they all roll downhill in a way that is just, they're trying to reshape the entire economy. And then when people say to a politician, the rent's too high and everything costs too much at the grocery store, all you have to do is think they're not trying to make it easier to get the food to the grocery store. They're not trying to make it easier to cool or heat the grocery store. They're trying to make everything harder in a way. And the pain feels like it's the point a lot of the time.
Well, Kamala says it's price gouging, and she's going to put an end to that.
Well, I, as a consumer advocate, I don't like price gouging as much as anybody else. But the one thing that I think is the thing that's hard for everyday people is they tell you that it's price gouging. People have been gouging us for 4 years. People have been gouging us for this whole time. Why haven't you? When did that just start? Because all I can tell you is, one of the most offensive things that I hear from people is the media says that some recent inflation print or some news article says that inflation was a little bit lower for the last 3 months, and so we're winning the war. People know that when they go to the store, things cost twice as much. Because when the inflation stops going up, guess what? The prices are still high. The prices are still high and they're not coming down. And I'm not even sure that a lot of these officials want them to come down. Because whether it's at home, whether it's trucking, they're not doing things to lower prices. They're doing things to lower carbon emissions or whatever it is that everyone knows when you do that, you're going to rise prices, and they don't seem to care.
Yeah. So we've seen the prices go up and the packaging get smaller. The portions get smaller at your local restaurants and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Well, all these people, everyone else is just trying to make it possible. At the end of the day, just think about it like this. The local restaurant, the corner store, they're just trying to make it possible for you to still eat there, right? Because you'll just leave if it's too much. And so they lower the size of the packaging to try to keep the price in something that's affordable for a family. They're lowering the portions because at the end of the day, their alternative is, $50 for a lunch. Their alternative is you're spending $13 for a box of cereal at the grocery store, right? So they're actually trying to solve for getting you in and out of the store at a price that you can afford, right? It's only the people in the background that are trying to ban the truck that brings the product to the store. They're trying to ban the truck that brings the product to the store. They're trying to make it harder to grow the product. They're trying to make it so that heating, cooling, or anything else with the store. And we haven't even talked about how, and they're busy letting thieves rob all the stores, right? So it's like they get you coming and going, and they're the ones that don't seem to care, right? It's the person who's trying to make it possible for you to buy the thing that is maybe doing a better job. Not saying that, these big woke companies are my favorite, but they are still trying to make it so that you buy something from them.
Despite what Biden and Harris have been telling us, America is not a democracy. But if it was a democracy and we actually put these items up for a vote, I mean, do you think America would vote for banning gas stoves? That America would vote for everybody having to have an EV or live in a tiny house or whatever? I mean, these are not things that Americans would support if they knew how it would affect them.
I don't even think, they know how it's going to affect them now. So what you see is they don't get the Green New Deal in Congress because even, left of center people don't want to lose their jobs in Congress. So that's why they're going to all the agencies. It's the Department of Energy, the Department of Environmental Protection, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Transportation, and they're just squeezing. Every 6 months, there's a new rule. Every 3 months, there's a new rule, whether it's 12 different rules on cars, dishwashers. This is what happened under when President Trump was last president. I was working in the Arizona Attorney General's office. And what we saw was, for the first time I had ever seen it, we saw an administration come out and say, let's create a new category of dishwasher that does it fast and does it effectively. Right? That was the first time you ever seen the federal government try to do something that makes life a little bit easier, from my perspective. And we've now seen an entire 4 years under President Biden and Vice President Harris of the opposite. New rules on dishwashers, new rules on this, new rules on that. They're bam, 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 bam from unelected bureaucrats, right? And you understand this, Tom, because I can tell from how I'm talking to you. They tell you they're not doing it. Then they tell you, well, if they did it, it was rare. And then they get to the point, well, actually, it's good, right? We're not going to ban gas stoves. Well, we're just going to ban a few of them in certain places. And I know New York City's banning them for all new buildings, but, it's very infrequent. Well, actually, it'd be great if we banned gas stoves. And why does anybody have one in the first place, right? We're on the journey there with gas stoves. And it's on countless products because it's these federal bureaucrats.
So did Team Trump, and I don't think so in the debate, but did Team Trump do enough to convince the American people, the voters, what Kamala's plan really is when it comes to this green energy crap?
I'm not a political expert, and so it's always dangerous when you ask me these questions because, I'm just an everyday guy. But I'll tell you that the thing that I see when I talk to people is they've just started figuring out that a lot of these things that they're seeing are part of a coordinated effort. And they understand who's coordinating it and pushing it, and they don't like it. When I see a lot of polling that talks about inflation, right? And then you see politicians try to explain how they're going to spend more money to make the inflation go away. Everybody I talk to, no matter what political party they are, they just think, no. So I think somehow you've seen 4 years where they've been so aggressive and they've busted prices so high that people are no longer thinking that this is anything about an accident.
Alliance for Consumers,
allianceforconsumers.org. We love to try to be a voice for people, right? Companies are not always your voice, and politicians certainly aren't anybody's voice. So we like to try to make it clear what everyday people are actually looking to do.
Yeah. Check it out, allianceforconsumers.org. And we've been talking to O.H. Skinner, executive director there. Good info, man. Thank you for the work you're doing on behalf of everyday consumers.
Okay, stay warm out there in West Virginia.